Hey, what's up guys, MugenLord here, and today we're going to talk about Sony. If you haven't checked out my last video where I talked about how Sony PlayStation Network, there's plenty of customers that were out there that experienced a bug to where they pretty much lose their entire digital library of games where they have no access to them. And I'm surprised to see that there was quite a few of you on my Twitter feed saying the same thing, that you experienced that. So it's quite interesting to see that I know quite a few of you guys who actually been through this. So why are they in the news right now as far as Sony is concerned? Well, apparently there was a leak of the PS5 Pro and its specs, and apparently Sony is investigating the situation. So before we dive into this video, make sure to subscribe button, the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into it. This is quite interesting. We are at the precipice of mid-generation consoles. Can't believe it already. But from Times Guide, it says PS5 Pro specs leak has prompted Sony to investigate. Here's what we know. That suggests that some of these leaks may be legit. So it says, the last several days have been a bucket load of alleged PS5 Pro specs hit the web, promising a range of new hardware that should boost gaming performance by a significant degree. While companies like Sony are never interested in commenting on the validity of these leaks, it is being claimed that Sony has launched an investigation to figure out where those PS5 Pro leaks are coming from. And I will say this, every time when we do talk about leaks here on this channel, I'll always tell you guys to take it for a grain of salt. Do not take it for fact, because we really don't know. Because this information that gets put out there may be put out there on purpose to expose who these leakers may be, or the person or whoever's leaking it could just want attention from everybody, from YouTube and also the media itself. But you also have to pay attention to how a company responds to leaks. What I mean by how they respond to leaks is how they go about it when these leaks go out. Do these companies end up requesting DMCAs on content creators, or do they go out and do investigations, or how they respond as far as the press is concerned when they're asked these questions? You gotta follow the breadcrumbs. You gotta look at their behavior and how they respond to it. And how they respond to it will let you know the validity of these leaks. But let's move on. Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson tweeted this news out late on Monday, claiming Sony has launched an internal investigation into how documents got leaked. Henderson isn't sure of the implications right now, since he believes Sony isn't likely to catch the individual offender. And in most cases, they never get a chance to really catch these people. You know, sometimes they do. I know, like when it comes to maybe Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Virgin Ben. He was a great leaker as well, but then if I can remember, something happened to, I guess, one of his sources may have gotten caught or was getting close to being caught, so he had to stay low for a little bit, because like I said before, sometimes these companies will put out misinformation on purpose or tell a hierarchy certain information and see if people within that branch is going to leak out the information, and then once that false information come out, then they can pinpoint exactly who put out the information. But in this case, there may be a chance they may not even catch who this person is, especially if this may be a third-party source. But because the documents leaked during third-party rollout, he notes that Sony could reduce its third-party developer pool for new tech as a result. If that ends up being the case, it means fewer developers could have a chance to work with new hardware before it's announced, and potentially extend the wait for new and optimized games. So yeah, that could be the punishment and the consequences for that. Which isn't ideal, since there's often a pretty sizable gap between the release of new hardware and a big influx of new games, because this is what happened when you have new hardware. The goal is you want to have games that take advantage of that hardware. But when you have situations like this, Sony or whoever the hardware manufacturer or developer it is, they may want to hold back on that and don't roll out to third party just to avoid these situations. But that also means that there won't be no games to accompany with the new rollout of this hardware. So while there's no confirmation that the leaked specs are accurate, the fact that Sony seems to be investigating their source suggests there's some level of truth to them. And that's what I said to you guys before. After all, Sony wouldn't be investigating a leak if all the information was completely false, would it? The problem is that we don't know what's true and what isn't, and we will likely won't gain any clarity until Sony announces the PS5 Pro at some point in the future. So yes, that's the thing. We won't know, and that's why I keep telling you guys, when we do cover leaks here, we just have to wait for the official announcement. But it's fun to even just speculate how all this work out. But it says, what PS5 Pro specs actually leaked? The most recent leaks claim that the PS5 Pro will offer a 28% boost in performance thanks to the 576 gigabytes of system memory, plus a new high CPU frequency mode. While the CPU is supposedly identical to the one in the original PS5, this mode could ramp up CPU clock speed up to 3.5 gigahertz, which would be a boost 10% over its predecessor. Yeah, that sounds pretty beefy. So the word is that the console will also come with a 35% improvement to audio, though the specifications of what this will involve are unclear right now. However, we expect that the PS5 Pro's spatial audio will be more accurate and impressive compared to the original PS5 and the PS5 Slim. It's also claimed on multiple occasions that the PS5 Pro will be coming with a major GPU boost and could possibly see the console support 8K gaming. Wow, this resolution, like now 8K gaming sounds impressive. 4K gaming, I don't really care about. I've never really cared about resolution too much when it comes to my video games. All I want is great performance. I know some people may disagree with that. Some people like to have their high fidelity graphics or visuals and stuff, but I really don't give a damn about 4K or 8K. All I care about, I want consistent 60 frames per second with a lot of my games. I'm tired of playing games where I have to make a choice between visuals and frame rate. It'd be nice to have both, you know, but if I had to pick and choose, it's always going to be performance over visuals anytime. So it said, needless to say, these rumors paint a very positive pictures about what we can expect from the PS5 Pro when it arrives. The only question is when that might be. We're still not sure, but the way information has been leaking out, we wouldn't be surprised if the new console arrives by the end of the year. I mean, it will be a perfect time by the end of the year for the holidays to be able to push consoles, because it's all about the holidays, man. The holidays is the important time for console manufacturers, for software, everything. And I think if Sony want to see a bump, because if you guys didn't check out my previous video or quite a couple of videos that I talked about, that the new president was saying that, hey, we in the latter life cycle of the PS5, and they are expecting a decline in sales as far as the PS5 is concerned, and they have to pretty much lower their projections. So if they want to actually increase their sales for the PS5 and get people to actually go out and buy more consoles, the best thing for them to do would be to pretty much for this holiday to release a PS5 Pro. Now, with that being said, everybody's giving it glowing praise about the PS5 Pro as far as the potential specs that it possesses. But something that's quite shocking, we go to IGN and he talked about that talks about the PS5 Pro and its capabilities. Despite the specs that it has, it's saying that don't expect PS5 Pro to run GTA 6 at 60 frames per second, tech experts say. Ram it home. Now, this is quite funny because, when it comes to mid-generation consoles, that's the whole point of a mid-generation console, is to pretty much do something or to be able to perform and outperform the original to get that better experience, and also for people who's missed out on the first or the base console, now they can get into the generation by going straight for the mid-generation console to get that better experience. And the thing is, GTA 6 is something that people are looking forward to, and we see in a headline like this say that the PS5 Pro may not be able to run this at 60 frames per second. That's crazy, especially if the PS5 Pro is going to be expensive as fuck, and then you still can't run a game like GTA at 60 frames per second. But let's go find out what's going on. So after the leaked PS5 Pro specs have been verified and added by the tech experts at Digital Foundry, and we talked about Digital Foundry before when it comes to the culture world aspect, but as I said before, give credit where credit is due. These guys are pretty much good at what they do when it comes to tech itself, rather than social political issues and everything like that. So they also delivered their prediction on how the unannounced console will run GTA 6. So this is all speculations on their end, but most of the time they have more hits rather than misses. So this week, the PS5 Pro specs leak, also verified by IGN, revealed the power of the console Sony reportedly plans to release during the fourth quarter of 2024. The PS5 Pro CPU is said to be identical to the standard PS5 CPU, but with high CPU frequency mode, which we already talked about all that in the last article. So it says, but according to Digital Foundry founder Rich Ledbetter, speaking in the latest episode of Digital Foundry Direct, the PS5 Pro's CPU means GTA 6 will probably run at 60 frames per second. Assuming that GTA 6 runs at 60 frames per second on a standard PS5, give no GTA game has launched with a 60 frames per second options. This one seems nailed on. According to Ledbetter, if GTA 6 run at 60 frames per second on PS5, it will run at 30 frames per second on PS5 Pro, bearing some kind of programming miracle, because the CPU handles simulation and the PS5 Pro CPU only increases the performance by 10%. In the unlikely event GTA 6 has a 60 frames per second mode on PS5, it'll run at 60 frames per second on the PS5 Pro. While the PS5 Pro CPU looks like a modest improvement, the PS5 Pro is much better than the PS5 at rendering, according to Digital Foundry. PS5 Pro Digital Foundry predicts it's capable of upscaling 1080p older games, PS5 games, to 4K via its upscaling anti-aliasing solution, PSR, if the developer chooses to support the tech with a patch. Digital Foundry says that the PS5 Pro will retain the same 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory as the standard PS5, but has an extra 1.2 gigabytes of system RAM for developers. So it pretty much just gave more room for developers, wiggle room for developers to work with. So just the thing about the PS5 Pro and what we're hearing right here with these mid-generation consoles, it's still showing, and in my personal opinion, every time we talk about or mentions of a mid-generation console, it always had me thinking, like, these mid-generation consoles should have been the actual console at launch. And that's what it seems like the PS5 Pro, and maybe we may get a mid-generation Xbox as well if they ever announce it. But it always let me know, like, every time I hear about these mid-generation consoles, why couldn't they just release this to begin with, you know? So it also let me know that, to me, in my personal opinion, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X were consoles that shouldn't have released right now. It seemed like that these consoles should have been in the oven to cook a lot longer, because here we're in the latter year of these consoles, and yet we're still seeing cross-generational games, which means there's really no reason to actually go out and get these consoles when you can still play them on your Xbox One and your PS4, you know? So when you think about this and you hear about this Pro and the potential of it not be able to play, you know, GTA 6 at 60 frames per second, you think, like, why? Like, what is up with these consoles? And at this point, PC is still looking more and more attractive when you're spending almost up to anywhere above $500 for these consoles, and you're still having to make the choice between graphical over performance or performance over graphical, you know? And why? That's the crazy thing after spending all this money. But the PS5 Pro really have a lot of people talking, and since everybody that I know, and still most people that I talk to, especially on my Discord, still doesn't have a PS5, I would suggest to you guys, if you are considering getting a PS5, I would say wait for them to make the announcement for the Pro, because it wouldn't make no sense to go out and get a PS5 right now just for them to announce the Pro, and you can pretty much get a much more beefier console and everything. But like, these console developers, man, like Sony and Microsoft, they really got to get their act together when it comes to these consoles, because there's no way in the world that you spending premium price for these consoles, and these games are still, you know, you're still doing cross-generational games. The performance for these games is still not all that great. And as I said before, at this point, now that you're pretty much releasing a lot of your first-party exclusives onto PC, what is the point of having these consoles? Even when it comes down to the mid-generation, where it's still struggling to play something like I said, this is all speculation from Digital Foundry. If you're still struggling to be able to play, you know, Grand Theft Auto 6 at 30 frames per second, it can't go to 60 frames. That's ridiculous. But that pretty much wraps up this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about the PS5 Pro? Do you have a PlayStation 5? If not, are you considering to get a PS5 Pro whenever Sony decides to announce it? So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.